This is a Founding Media podcast. Welcome back to Masters and Founders, where we get to know Austin's inspiring entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dan Dillard, and you're tuning in to the second episode of PJ Christie's Founders Spotlight series, where we sit down with Austin-based entrepreneurs who have graduated from Search and Convert's Black Business Matter program. We have something of an Austin celebrity joining us today. You may recognize him from his many performances at ACL and other stages, or you may have seen his art in town galleries or on t-shirts. We're excited to welcome Jonathan Chaka Mahone into Founders Spotlight. Chaka is one half of the hip-hop duo Riders Against the Storm, and he's also founder of fashion line NefrFreshr. He's also founded the Black Lives Music Fund, which provides support for Black musicians in Austin, and DAWA, a fund providing crisis relief support to Black creatives and community frontliners in Austin. Through his artistry and entrepreneurship, Chaka works to get to the root of systemic issues in Austin that are threatening to drive people of color out of our community. He shines light on the failures to support Black musicians and creatives in Austin and demonstrates through his journey how to respond to the needs that you recognize in your community. This episode is inspiring and invigorating, so let's dive in and hear from Chaka. How did you guys meet? I'm curious.
Well, I started up the Black Businesses Matter to just help African-American entrepreneurs in Austin and around the country. And I had always said, well, if to my friends, if you know of anybody, tell them to come find me. I'm glad to help. And then I kind of realized it's not up to them to find people. It's up to me to get out of my safety zone and go out and find people. So, so I was speaking with my friend Najee, who was in the Black Businesses Matter program. And I asked him if he could make any introductions to anybody I could meet. And he introduced me to Chaka. After I saw his challenge to the music community, I knew that this was a guy that I really wanted to work with. And so I called him.
Chaka, tell me a little bit more about what you did or what you started in 2017. We were talking about that a little bit ago.
Yeah, so I started a clothing line in 2017, which is called NefrFreshr. The Nefra aspect is a nod to ancient wisdom. I've always been kind of intrigued by hieroglyphics, and that it's a art and also a science, and that our ancient ones that are still here with us, we're just generations, the sequels to that wisdom of not separating science from language, from art. It's all one. And I really like that concept. And so the Nefra part is a nod to Nefertiti. A lot of wisdom comes from Egypt that's still, is still a part of us today. Obviously, the Greeks learned a whole lot from Egypt. And the Fresher aspect is about being in the now, being in the moment. So we're in the moment, but we have to understand that we're reflections of the past. We never forget that. So we don't leave the past behind. There's no way to do that. The past is in the present, and the present is in the future. So NefrFreshr is about that. It's about being fresh, but also remembering where you come from. And so I started that brand in 2017 after years and years of, just expressing myself through clothing. And I'm a performer in a group called Riders Against the Storm. We started that group over 2004 we started that group. So that's what, 18 years ago. Yeah. Me and my wife, we started that group to basically just express ourselves. And over the years, people have always commented on the fashion and clothing that I wear. And I thought, I'm a visual artist. I paint murals. I do all types of things. So I thought, what if I turn this art into clothing? What if I turned it into apparel? Mm-hmm. And around 2017, before that actually, but I became more aware of it in 2017, the print on demand world where you can upload your art and it can be shipped out, drop shipped for you. And you can basically just upload the art and put your price on it and people and market it and people will buy it from all over the world. So that's what I did. I had an art show at Antone's and had a bunch of my art, which was also featured in the clothing line and launched it in 2017. And since 2017, it's grown a lot.
Yeah, Chaka, I love the Basquiat t-shirt. I get comments on it everywhere. So I know it's discontinued. That's why I love it so much, because nobody else is going to be wearing it. But what's next for NefrFreshr?
Man, I'm super excited. Again, the journey has been, it's been a long journey. For maybe not for other people, but launching in 2017 and just seeing the growth has been incredible. But this year, I'm part of an incubator, a national incubator through Macy's. I think people probably heard of Macy's before, so it's an opportunity to learn from them about how to possibly vend and have my clothing line at Macy's or a company like
Dude,
Macy's.
that could be a real game changer for you. That's super exciting.
Yeah, so there were 600 applicants and 25 brands were chosen. So it's super, just a privilege, and I'm really excited to be a part of that. They're really teaching a lot about scaling your business, applying for loans, getting your business proposal together. And these are all things that, I've been looking to, next steps I've been looking to take. So, thanks to, all the support I've had out there, it's got me to this moment. So I'm really excited. It's basically been marketed to my community, and then it's grown outside of that community. Riders Against the Storm is a band that has won Band of the Year 3 times in a row in Austin, the Austin Chronicle Band of the Year. We've traveled all around the world. We have fans from all over the globe. So marketing it was pretty, I don't want to say it was easy, but we already had people that were paying attention.
Yeah.
And so that was a great thing to access them and have them support.
What I love best is what you talked about was that you saw this need. People were coming to you and saying, "Hey, where do I get that? How do I do that?" So just already seeing the need, and that's what caused that push for you to start actually producing for others to buy. What other projects did you guys work on? You and PJ and Search and Convert work on together?
So that's a great point about just the need. I think everything that I've not everything, but most things that I do come from that is recognizing that there's a need. I don't really want to do something that somebody's already doing. If they're already doing it, it's not that other people aren't designing clothes, but there's a certain angle, a certain voice, or a certain thing that you have that you can offer that nobody else has. And if I see that, then that attracts me to it, and it makes me want to pursue the exploration of it. So in the case of other things that I work with PJ, something called the Black Lives Music Fund was something I started in 2020 to address the need in the Austin music industry, because a lot of Black musicians are not at the table. We're not included in the discussions, and we're definitely not supported in the same way that other musicians are. And this is the live music capital of the world. In 1991, they took on that name. Since 1991, the Black population has gone down incrementally over the last 30 years. So there's a direct relation to people coming here. Oh, it's a great music city. Let me check it out. Let me come here for a weekend or whatever and hang out, to Black people not being in the city. Wow. So every year the Black population has gone down. But every bar you go into, what music are they playing? It's Black music. Mm-hmm. It's Black culture that they're experiencing. Whether it's Rolling Stones you go and see, or it's whatever, this all comes from Black people. And so, you have a city here that's benefiting off of music, largely generated from Black stories, Black culture, Black everything. And you have a Black population that is diminishing. So those two things, I've been here for 12 years and I've seen it myself. When I first touched down here, was living in the east side, right off of Weberville. Mm-hmm. Everybody that I was encountering, a place called the Hog Pen. And, everybody I was encountering was saying, it's going to be over for us pretty soon. The city's changing. This was 12 years ago. Yeah. And, I was basically, even though I was listening, but I was also trying to express to them something that I believe in is self-fulfilling prophecy. We have to see ourselves here in order to be here. But I also didn't have a real grasp on the historic racism and systemic racism that exists here in a similar way, but in a different way than it does in other cities that I've lived in.
I see.
And so, this is a very racist and segregated city. I did not know that when I moved here, but my experience, my lived experience here over time brought me to that understanding. And so the inability of the Austin music industry to really address the needs of Black musicians and Black creators caused me to create the Black Lives Music Fund. Okay. And so, the idea behind the Black Lives Music Fund is to have our own fund well, we can fund our own projects and, not necessarily look to anyone else for that support, including the city, because many people may not know, I'm not going to go too long on this, but there's something called the Live Music Fund. And that was created out of hotel tax funds from the city.
Okay.
I am still a part of the Music Commission as a chair. I was a chair, vice chair, and then chair of the Music Commission. But before I was a chair, I made a whole lot of noise. And this is what ended up leading me to the creation of Black Lives Music Fund, because all these people sitting in these rooms were talking about how hard it is to be a musician in Austin, how difficult it was to make a living. But nobody was talking about the realities of Black musicians in Austin and Black people in Austin. So as soon as it became hard for a lot of times privileged people to live in the city, then it became an issue that we needed to talk about. But when it was Black people that couldn't afford here and had to move to Maynard, Round Rock, Pflugerville, it wasn't headline news. So there's a bias there that's clear. That's not, it's like the elephant in the room. Oh, it's so hard for musicians to be here. Da, da, da. But I'm like, why aren't we talking about how hard it is to live here as a Black person? Why is this such a difficult conversation to have? So I was just like, you know what? The city is built off of Black culture, it's built off of Black music. We need to have a Black Lives Music Fund. And obviously that is legally is something that the city can't really accomplish. It can't say, we're just going to give money to Black music. But I made the statement to make a point and saying, like, we have this live music fund. We should give half of this money to Black musicians, period. That's just only fair. But knowing that the city couldn't really make that happen, I started the Black Lives Music Fund on my own. And so far, we raised almost $20,000. It's part of another organization I started called DAWA. And we'll be, hopefully in 2022, start releasing some of that funding so that Black musicians can do their thing here in the city.
Very cool.
Yeah, and all I did was just build the website, right? I could tell that something really great had to happen, and it was going to require a catalyst to make it happen. And so, me and my designer Casey, we just got right to work, and when you do websites for a living, it doesn't take that long.
Right.
It's when you've never done a website before that it can take forever. We got the whole thing done in like 5 hours, and it does everything that Chaka needed it to. So nice. I'm proud of our contributions.
Nice.
Yeah, it was definitely something that I needed to have done. And with all the other things that I do, it was just kind of like putting it off. So having that, taken off my plate was huge. It was a fundraising arm where we could just tell the story of the Black Lives Music Fund, and it's been helpful, really helpful.
What I love about what you both are doing is just you recognizing the needs and some of the shortfalls that are not being met in the community through music and art and all these other things. And you just get out there as entrepreneurs and say, okay, how can I, beyond, and both of you have your own careers and you've got to like build for your families, but beyond that, the giving back to the community is super encouraging in the work that you both are doing. I'm curious about systemic issues in the industry. Chaka, is there any systemic issues that you've faced in this entrepreneur community? You've talked about some of the challenges and experiences, but maybe something that we could shine more of a light on.
In the entrepreneur community specifically?
Yeah.
I don't know about the entrepreneur community. I think one of the challenges that I see is there's a tremendous amount of wealth coming to the city, and that wealth tends to be consolidated and not shared. And so, folks that, work here, they may be even remote, they're not really involved in supporting the communities that they're moving into. They just kind of, they move here and they don't really get involved. They don't really
disconnected.
Look around and see what's needed out here. There's a real disconnection, and I see that in the tech community, which is huge here. There's so many people moving here from other tech cities, or coming here to create startups. But there's a disconnect between these folks and the city that they're actually living in. The people that have actually been here historically, and some of the issues that they face. As residents, because of these new residents that are moving here. So it's like your moving here has a huge impact on property values and a huge impact in just the city overall, but you're not really giving much back. You're creating problems that you may not be aware of, and you're living in a sort of bubble where you feel like, well, I'm solving these problems out in the world, but you have no idea the problems that are existing like right around the corner from you.
Yeah, and I would say I would just add on that that's a tech challenge, and that's my challenge. My challenge was exactly what Chaka was saying: getting out of my own apartment, going out to see the music, but also just getting involved in the community. And the challenge of Black Businesses Matter is, how are we as tech and as entrepreneurs are we gonna grow this, be a part of it, and help our brothers? Frankly, none of us are gonna enjoy living in a city without Black people in it. I can tell you that right now.
Right.
I don't want to live in a city without Black people in it.
It's a community for sure.
Yeah.
I am curious. We're here to celebrate Black entrepreneurs in Austin. Chaka, do you have a favorite or inspiring entrepreneur?
If you check out freshlife.com right now, you can see kind of my biggest inspirations. And he has a quote that says, the highest human act is to inspire. His name is Nipsey Hussle. He's born and raised in LA, Los Angeles. He's an entrepreneur. He's a musician. He's a community activist. He was getting involved in tech, create opportunities for young people to learn coding and tech in his community. He used his influence and his brand to impact his community. He understood the struggles in his community, and he really took it on himself to be the change that he wanted to see in the world. So he was really, really highly intentional about the moves that he was making. And he started from, the bottom. Like Drake says he started from the bottom, but he ain't started from the bottom. This guy truly started from, the street level and, ended up being nominated for a Grammy. Unfortunately, his life was taken. I think he was 35. He was murdered right outside of his store, actually, in the community that he was born and raised in. So it's a sad ending, but he lived his life to the fullest, and he believed in community, and he believed in entrepreneurship, and he believed in his ability to inspire the next generation. And I'm a part of a group called Riders Against the Storm. And, some people have heard us, some people haven't. But we get our name from a group called Sweet Honey in the Rock. And they're an all-female a cappella group. They've been singing since the 60s, freedom songs, and really have these beautiful harmonies and songs that they sing. They have a song called Ella Song. And the lyrics are taken from Ella Baker, an activist, civil rights activist. And in the song, they talk about passing the torch to the young who will run against the storm. And so, we're children of the civil rights. My parents met at an Urban League conference. They were involved in the civil rights movement. I'm that generation that took the torch from them, and we're riders against the storm. So I take that really seriously. I feel like we have a responsibility, and that's embedded in everything that I do. And I feel like Nipsey had that same feeling that, we have a responsibility for future generations. We have to show them, lead by example.
Very cool. I love that story. I'm so happy you shared that with us, because it's through these stories that mean something to us that others can learn and appreciate the art and people's lives. So thank you for sharing that, for sure. Mm-hmm. My last question, and this is really something I want to throw out to both of you. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs in Austin? This program is called Masters and Founders because, there's people like yourself, and people like myself and PJ that are out there, put their own shingle out and doing their thing. But there's people like, as you mentioned, behind us that need to carry that torch. So what advice do you have for entrepreneurs?
My advice to entrepreneurs is, once you find something that you're passionate about, just make sure that, it's something that's needed. Because anything that I've done has been successful because it's something that actually resonates with somebody. I don't invest into it until I see that there's actually, a resonance. If you want to start a cookie business and, you make cookies and you hand them out to your friends and they don't really say anything like positive about it, you're getting feedback there
Yeah.
that, maybe that's not the right thing.
Right.
Maybe people don't need these cookies from me, but you have to really get feedback. Everything from the clothing line to music, to the Black Lives Music Fund, the DAWA, which we didn't even address. It's about the need that's out there, and seeing that there's a need for something to be offered. You have to see, not just think about the money, but really think about the exchange. Like, why should I, as somebody that is out there in the community, why should I want to exchange this energy that I have, that I've worked for? I've stored up this energy. I go to work every day. I have this energy with me. Why should I share it with you in the form of currency, in the form of, money? Why should I share that with you? I work hard for it. Why should I release this and give it to you? What am I getting in exchange? If you have a good answer for that, then like, I feel like, you have something there. Like, if you can really answer that question, like, why should someone, make this exchange with you? What are you offering that's of value? If you have a good answer for that, it doesn't have to be a, mission statement or anything like that. But if you really have an answer for that, then, go after it and be willing to, sacrifice the time and everything that's going to take to actually learn the industry, learn, the terminology, learn the ins and outs of whatever you're wanting to do. Believe in it. There are going to be plenty of people, trust me, like, that they're going to tell you that, you can't do it, or that, you should be spending your time doing something else. But, you have to believe in yourself, and just put in the work, man.
Love it.
Yeah. I would say the same thing. It's got to matter to somebody, because if it doesn't matter to you, then what kind of business is it? And if it doesn't matter to somebody else, it's not really much of a business anyway. Mm-hmm. The part two to that, and I would tell any entrepreneur, you got to get your bread right. Quite simply, you got to know what you're making, what you're spending, what you need, what you don't need. Mm-hmm. Get your bread right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot, a hidden thing, I think, in a lot of these entrepreneur stories is, they don't, I often talk about the money that, kind of helped them get started. And so if you don't have money, if you're someone that's starting without money, then, there's something else that you can find is community or support. Until you can find the financial support, you're going to have to do a lot on your own. And, don't feel bad, because a lot of these folks that, they put on the cover of these magazines or whatever, the Zuckerbergs and all this, they had family money. They had all types of privilege and things that create opportunities for them that the average person just doesn't have access to. Mm-hmm. So, if you don't have access to, capital, then, look around and see what capital you do have, because there are things that you may have privilege to have around you that other people don't. Community, experts, people that are into whatever you're into, you can galvanize that until you can find the capital. But, it is going to take, if you want to really get to a level, certain level, it's going to take some capital. But I think there's this entrepreneurial myth where it's just like, oh yeah, see the need, create the thing, and it'll come. It's like, no, like, at some point you're going to have to find some investment,
right?
But do all the work that it takes until then. So when you get to the investment point, you can really tell them your story. You can show them evidence of, even without the capital, because a lot of things I've done are without capital, but I can show them, I can say, hey, we had this impact with no marketing, with no,
right,
just
right.
straight bootstrap, like none of that. We had this impact. We sold this much. So if you invest even more, right, this is how it can scale. But you have to have some type of record of that.
Yeah.
So don't worry if you don't, start out with a lot. It doesn't take a lot, and figure out ways you can do it without a lot. Like, I started a clothing business, as print on demand via Printful. The cost was the website cost and the Shopify page, and that was it. So maybe that was $50 to $100. I don't really remember, but at most $100 a month. And I was able to sell things online. So, it doesn't take a whole lot of money to get started, but don't be afraid if you don't have it, because, a lot of these folks, they try to tell you that they bootstrap, they did it themselves, but behind the scenes, it's mom, it's dad, it's the uncles, it's the aunts. that like really give them that initial start. So, don't be afraid to start with nothing. You can do it, but also make sure that there's a need.
I'd say also start young. I don't think that there's any reason if there's somebody out there just because they're young that they shouldn't get started in entrepreneurship.
Right.
And in fact, when you're young is probably the best time to get started, because before you have a lot of responsibilities.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm glad I started young.
Yeah. No, for sure. Well, this was a great interview. I really enjoyed. I enjoyed so much about this conversation that we had. Mostly what speaks to me is the sense of community, but also the art and the need of opening your eyes and being present to what has been given to us, even if we don't have it, like the ability to create from nothing, which is really powerful, but also looking out for the rest of the community and seeing how to be helpful, because I think that's the part of our human journey, is not only looking out for ourselves, but looking out for the community and how can we be part of that. So thank you both for being on the show.
Yeah, I would definitely like to say, if people are interested in supporting, we didn't get a chance to really talk about DAWA, but DAWA is something that started in 2019. It's in Swahili, DAWA means medicine, and the acronym is Diversity, Awareness, and Wellness in Action. And I started it because there are a lot of people like me, creatives, healthcare providers, people we call the community frontliners, people that are providing a high value to our society, but aren't necessarily receiving the financial rewards of that. So you can be a social worker, you could be a musician, you could be a therapist, you could be having a high community impact, but that doesn't necessarily reflect itself in your bank account at the end of the month.
Right.
So we created DAWA to be a resource, financial assistance, a safety net to people that are giving back in our communities. So if that resonates with you, go to dawaheals.org, DAWAHEALS.org. We've given away over $100,000 to that community over the last 2 years. We have plans, a lot of plans. So join the newsletter, go to the website, check it out. We really appreciate your support. If you can, on a monthly basis, or just a one-time basis. We're part of the Amplify Austin thing that's happening in March. So check that out. You can find us if you do a search there. And
we'll make sure to put links.
Get involved in your community. Sure. Figure out a way, that you can learn more about what's happening in Austin. Figure out an organization that you resonate with, and support that organization on a monthly or annual basis.
Thank you, Chaka, for joining Masters and Founders today. It's inspiring to hear how you've used your music and your visual art to affect change in our community. There are so many systemic issues that plague our community, but at the same time, there's also so many opportunities to be part of the solution of these problems, if we're meeting and willing to find them. Support Chaka's work at FreshToLife.com, DAWAheals.org, and BLMF.zone. You can also listen to Writers Against the Storm wherever you find your music. And thank you, listener, for tuning in to our second Founder Spotlight. This Founder Spotlight is sponsored by Search and Convert, which is an Austin-based marketing agency that can help your business get more leads to your site. Find PJ Christie and his team over at searchandconvert.com to learn more. To learn more about how podcasting can help your business, visit us at foundingmedia.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and please tell a friend. See you next time.